The night everything changed, the restaurant was almost empty. The rain outside had turned the streets of Chicago into a mirror of broken lights, and inside the quiet luxury of the small family-owned restaurant, a lonely man sat at his usual table, staring at a plate he barely touched. For years he had believed that money could solve every problem, but that night he discovered something money could never buy back, a feeling he had lost long ago. His name was Michael Bennett, a successful businessman who had built an impressive life in the heart of Chicago, Illinois. From the outside, people saw a man who had everything: a beautiful apartment overlooking the city, a thriving company, expensive cars, and a reputation for being one of the most respected entrepreneurs in the country. But behind the polished suits and confident smile was a man carrying a quiet emptiness that nobody noticed. Every evening, Michael came to the same restaurant, sat at the same table near the window, and ordered the same meal. The staff knew his routine. They knew he preferred silence. They knew he rarely smiled. What they did not know was that every dinner reminded him of the person who used to sit across from him. 5 years earlier, Michael had lost his wife, Sarah, after a long illness. Since then, the warmth that once filled his home had disappeared. He buried himself in work, convincing himself that staying busy would make the pain fade. But every night, when the world became quiet, the memories returned. Before we continue this emotional journey, if you believe that kindness, compassion, and second chances can change someone's life, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories. One cold evening, as Michael sat alone at his table, something unexpected happened. The restaurant door opened, and a woman stepped inside. She looked tired, soaked from the rain, and nervous as she glanced around the elegant room. She was not dressed like the other customers. Her coat was old, her shoes were worn, and she carried a small bag that looked like it held everything she owned. Her name was Grace Collins. Grace quietly stood near the entrance, unsure if she belonged there. The restaurant was clearly not a place where someone like her would normally walk in. She had spent the last few months struggling after losing her job and facing unexpected medical bills. She had once been a school assistant who loved helping children, but life had taken a difficult turn. After falling behind on rent, she found herself moving from place to place, trying to survive while holding on to her dignity. That night, Grace had only one simple wish: to find a warm place to escape the freezing rain. Michael noticed her immediately. At first, he looked away, assuming she was another person passing through the city's endless struggles. He had seen many people in need, but he had trained himself not to get involved. He told himself that helping everyone would never fix the world, but something about Grace felt different. She looked around the restaurant with a strange mixture of sadness and hope. She was not searching for luxury, she was searching for kindness. The waiter approached her, and Michael watched as she quietly explained that she did not have enough money for a full meal. She asked if there was any leftover food that she could take with her. She was embarrassed, but she remained polite. Those words hit Michael harder than he expected. For years he had sat in that restaurant wasting food without thinking twice. He had spent thousands of dollars on things he barely used. Yet this woman was standing there, simply hoping for a small meal. Something inside him shifted. Michael asked the waiter to bring her a full dinner and quietly paid for it. But Grace did not know who had helped her. She simply sat at a small corner table, holding the warm plate in front of her as if it was something precious. Michael watched from across the room. For the first time in years, he saw someone appreciate a simple dinner more than anyone he had ever met. As Grace ate slowly, she noticed an elderly couple struggling to carry their bags near the entrance. Without hesitation, she stood up and helped them. She did not know anyone was watching. She did not do it for attention. Helping others was simply who she was. Michael felt something he had forgotten for a long time: hope. After that night, Grace started appearing at the restaurant more often. Not because she expected anything from Michael, but because the owner allowed her to help with small tasks in exchange for meals. She cleaned tables, organized supplies, and greeted customers with a kindness that slowly changed the atmosphere of the restaurant. Michael began noticing things he had ignored before. He noticed how Grace remembered people's names. He noticed how she comforted a nervous child waiting for dinner. He noticed how she always gave the best part of her meal to someone else if they needed it more. The woman who had arrived with almost nothing seemed to have something Michael had lost everything trying to find: a generous heart. Slowly, Michael started talking to her. At first, it was only small conversations. Then they became longer. He learned about her dreams, her struggles, and the difficult moments that had shaped her. He discovered that Grace had once wanted to open a community center for children who needed support. But life had convinced her that dreams were no longer possible. Michael understood that feeling more than anyone. He had built a company after losing everything early in life, but somewhere along the way he had forgotten why he started. He had chased success so intensely that he lost connection with the people around him. Grace reminded him that a meaningful life was not measured by what you owned, but by what you gave. One evening, Michael decided to visit Grace's neighborhood. He saw the reality she had been living with: small apartments, struggling families, children with dreams bigger than their circumstances. For the first time in years, Michael did not see problems. He saw people. He saw opportunities to make a difference. Using his resources, Michael helped Grace create the community center she once dreamed about. He provided funding, but he made sure Grace was the heart of the project. She was the person who understood the people they were helping. Months later, the same woman who once entered a restaurant hoping for leftover food stood inside a beautiful new center surrounded by children laughing and learning. Michael stood nearby, watching her smile. He realized that the most important dinner of his life was not the expensive meals he had shared with powerful people. It was the simple dinner on a rainy night when a stranger walked through the door and unknowingly changed everything. Grace had entered his life needing help, but she ended up giving him something much greater. She gave him a reason to feel alive again. If this story touched your heart and reminded you that one small act of kindness can create a powerful change, please support this video by liking, sharing, and subscribing. Your engagement helps these stories reach more people who need a little hope. Before the story ends, comment "Kindness changes lives" if you believe that even one person can make a difference in someone else's world. Years later, Michael still visited that same restaurant. He still sat at the same table near the window. But he was no longer alone. The empty chair across from him was now filled with conversations, laughter, and memories being created. Because sometimes, the person who walks into your life needing a little kindness becomes the person who saves your heart. And for Michael Bennett, the night Grace appeared before him was the night dinner was never the same again.